You want to do the vote?
Okay. Well, welcome everybody to our CSAY Northmoreland Speaker Series. This is our third attempt, so we're going to try to keep this going, and the purpose is to provide education to parents and community members so that we can have a safer, more productive, healthy community. Having said that, today our focus is on vaping, and we have a panel that's here. I'll introduce everybody in just a few moments, but for starters, we're going to have Greg Norton, who works with St. Vincent Fall Prevention Project as a prevention specialist working with youth, and Aaron Erb from Adagio Health are going to give us some facts about vaping. You're on.
Oh, I don't need that. So you guys are fans, right? So good to see you. I was just going to come in and say, we go in with St. Vincent. We come into all the schools. And a lot of people know me from seeing me in the schools. And we come in and talk to all the students. And we'll talk from everything from alcohol, drugs, setting goals, and building on like quality of life as they get older. And obviously, vaping is a big subject. I call it the elephant in the room when I talk to the kids, right? And I say, look, there's a giant elephant in the room, nobody wants to talk about it. And then when I say the V word, the vaping, everyone talks about it. Right? And you guys will know more about the vapes. The biggest thing, I get all my information from the kids. I give them a lot of information that I have from my experience in law enforcement, all the years I did that in undercover work. And then I get information, because they're the best pieces of information to tell you what's going on. Aaron's going to have like stats or best stats that you can give, and I always look at recent stats from nationwide, and you see 23, and maybe you can go on just for a second, but we went down in 24, at least nationwide, but I don't know if that's the case in Westmoreland County with vaping use.
So it did drop a little bit in the past few years, so which is good, but it's still pretty high. And I have some stats up here. You can kind of roll through those, and I kind of tied it into the different schools that we have here. So in 2024, the vapes are used more often than any other tobacco product in the youth. They're cheaper, they're easier to get, they're easier to hide. They smell better. They're not smelling like, cigarette smoke, so nobody's really suspecting anything, right? Most of the e-cigarettes contain nicotine. There are some that don't have nicotine in them. You can get them that way. But nicotine is highly addictive still. And nicotine does really still, it can harm part of your brain. Your brain continues to develop until the age of 25. So kids that are actually actively using these electronic cigarettes and different types of vapes aren't realizing that their brain is actually so developed and their things developed and they're
If they want to, but yeah, I'm not
they're
gonna force
actually
them.
damaging their brain as they're doing this right now. An interesting statistic that I found is most of the kids that are actually vaping now, they want to quit. They started probably because a friend had it and they tried it, and now they want to quit. But they're addicted already. It doesn't take long to get addicted to nicotine. It is a powerful drug, so they're already addicted, so they can't stop. You'll see later in the slides there's,
It's one for the people online, I'm going to go later. They can hear you. Yeah, I think they're not going to hear very well.
okay. So,
Is it on?
I
Hey, just move it by your face.
no.
think it's speaking.
It should be good now.
Right there, yeah.
Oh, it is on. Now I have both. I think in one of the later slides it says about 63% of the youth who vape now actually do want to quit. But they're addicted, and they've actually tried it. So currently there's about 5.9% of middle school and high school students. That's not Westmoreland County, that's all over. That's one 1.63 million students in middle school. There's a ton of students. 410 middle school students and over 1 million high school students are vaping. And that's at 63.9% of students, they want to quit. And then 67 actually have tried and have failed because they're already addicted. This is another thing that I said already. They're already addicted to the nicotine, and they can actually show signs earlier than actually when they become addicted. The aerosol from the e-cigarettes, they don't think that it's actually harming them because it's a vapor. They think it's just air and water, but there's actually cancer-causing chemicals inside that vapor. One of them is that the flavoring, the diacetyl, it can cause popcorn lung. They don't realize that. They think it's funny, it's popcorn lung, but it actually is like a very damaging disease inside of your lung that is caused by this diacetyl. And actually recently seizures. So students were complaining about having headaches and going to the nurse's station. There was a report just recently that a girl was actually going to the nurse's station or the nurse's office. She passed out in the hallway and ended up having a seizure in her head. And they linked it back to nicotine toxicity because of vaping. So they don't realize the nicotine content in these vapes. So this is an example of one of the popular disposable e-cigs. Rich actually has one with him. So the nicotine content is 2%. If they smoke the entire thing, it is actually equivalent to over 2 packs of cigarettes. So, what they are not realizing is this thing, this little vape right here, is 2 packs of cigarettes. It's actually over 2 packs. It's 2 packs plus 8 cigarettes. And what you're not realizing too whenever you're vaping this is 1 cigarette is like 10 to 15 puffs. You have no idea how many cigarettes actually you're smoking when you're smoking this. So if you're trying to see how many cigarettes I'm smoking, you have no clue. Because this never really ends until it's completely done. The other interesting thing for this is that the juice is actually nicotine salt. And that's like the most popular thing now. It has that benzoic acid in it, so that your throat doesn't have that like harsh hit as like cigarettes when it burns your throat. It's more like smooth, so it doesn't actually burn. And that's why kids are more addicted to that, because it doesn't actually burn your throat. Whereas like older adults who are smoking, they like that burn, like the menthol burn in the back of their throat. They want that. Kids aren't experiencing that with this nicotine salt, and that's what's more potent and more addictive. So here's a school. I did a little school breakdown. These are averages for the student enrollments that I found. So here at Burrell, they have in the middle school approximately 416 students in grades 6 through 8. If there's about 3.5% of those smoking, that's about 15 students. You take 15 students and then say, hey, Rich, what do I have? Take this one. That's another student, then another student, then another student. So it's going to continue to grow. So you feel like 15 is not a lot, but then it's just going to continue to grow from there. And 45 for the high school. And then you can see like Franklin Regional has 28 and 87, and so on. So if you add all of them across the schools in Westmoreland County, you have almost 400 students that are actually actively probably vaping in the school. And if you think about it, that's probably a low number because they're sharing, right? They're going into the bathroom, like Dr. Agner said at the last meeting, they're going into the bathroom, they're doing it in the classrooms, they're hiding it. They're doing it before school, after school, in the middle of school. So there's probably actually more students than is actually represented here. So, right, you say, my kid's not doing that. It's not happening in my house. But these are all kind of vapes that you would never actually notice that are around. So if you look around the room, do you see any vapes in here other than these ones that Rich just pulled out of his little Mary Poppins bag?
I know Beth has one. Yeah.
No? Should I plant any? I'm wearing one. This is actually a vape watch. It's a smartwatch. It's a vape. So kids could be wearing this in school. Yeah. It's the watch that's up there. When you signed in, Mary Jo had the pen. That is a vape as well. So it's an actually working pen. So they can have that right in the classroom. Those highlighters that are on the bottom, they're vapes. They can have them in class with them. The hoodie on the left, they can have that in class. So they could very easily be doing it in class right underneath the teacher's noses and they would never even know.
How do you stop that?
You can't. I wore this around the hospital for 2 weeks. I was in meetings with our CEO because he was telling me to do these vape talks and I'm like literally like waving this in front of people's faces. No one said a word because they just thought it was a smartwatch. I mean, it looks like a smartwatch. It just pops right off.
Well, how do you fit it? I mean, like, where do you, so how do you use it? Like, how do you take it off on sales?
There's nothing in it, so it doesn't really matter.
No, I know, but I'm just wondering, like, if they have it on, or they just like going like this?
You just pop this off and now it's in the
Okay, so you pop it off.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an actual watch. So you can, I'll pass it around, you guys can.
So that's all, that's the was thinking that we think
It's a watch, yeah.
We don't,
And
we
that's
think
the
our
pen.
watches are already getting all
No, and you won't
Yeah.
notice
Yeah.
because it's your watch.
So it's your watch and it's vape underneath?
It's made, yeah. Yeah. So they're not, I mean, they're creative.
Car keys.
Car keys.
Car keys, I
Yeah,
saw
most of
that,
those
yeah.
ones with the car keys and the pen, probably, I don't know, I would say 80-20% that's going to be EAC car keys.
Right. That pen is actually marketed as like a aromatherapy pen. And then you go on there and all of the reviews are about vaping. So they're not using it for aromatherapy. And you can literally put any kind of juice that you want in there. That's the sad thing is kids don't know what's actually in the juice. They don't know what they're vaping. Yeah. So just to finish up, I do have some of these over here. I'm not going to go through all this, but this is straight from the CDC. We can't recreate the best product that you have out there. This is how you talk to teens, for parents, how to talk to teens, what you do before the talk, how you prepare yourself, how you prepare them, how to start the conversation, how to answer questions, and then how to keep the conversation going. So all of that is over here. So if you want to take any brochures, anything like that, you can have any and all of those, but it's just how to kind of get that conversation going and how to get them to like stop. And so that's kind of all I have. So we kind of partnered with Adagio and did that with our hospital, and they have a lot of different smoking cessation programs out there. And we'll continue to work with all you guys too, because it is a hot topic and the kids don't realize what actually they're smoking and how bad it is for their lungs. So that's my part in the statistics and how bad it is for you.
But I think the saddest part is that they probably think it's only one cigarette, so what's one cigarette going to do? And you said it's almost 2.5 packs in that. I mean,
This is
so,
like,
I mean, that's,
Yeah, that is 1 pack of cigarettes.
which one is?
Your little cartridge in the
That's
fuel,
That's 1
1
pack.
pack.
and they'll hit that and be done after a day and a half.
But
facilities, they're not even doing nicotine, it's supposed to
Yeah.
be THC, and that's,
So
Well,
Rick,
and that's what I wanted to
can you
bring.
talk a little bit of the difference between the THC and marijuana and what you're seeing with the kids and what their take is on, you know, marijuana, vaping marijuana.
Yeah, it's just a little tape.
I think it's better than cigarettes.
Well, they think it's safer than cigarettes, and I think they're not gonna get addicted because of the nicotine versus the THC. Plus, with all of the talk on legalizing marijuana, they're just like, well, it's legal, it's gonna be okay. But most of the people in the room here are all, minus a few, are younger, but the marijuana that's out there today in these vapes is 60–70% THC, where in the 80s, 70s, and 80s, you were talking 6 to 8%. So it's so much more THC. And then what I talk to the kids about and everything that Aaron said, you can give them stats, but they're kids. You got to realize. So for the parents, it's how serious of a problem it is. Just pick up your paper, and we have law enforcement in here, and we have judge here that can talk about this. But our district attorney in Westmoreland County, in her office, they've been going after these vape shops, and they just had recently, within like October till. They just hit Delmont again, and hit one up here in Burrell, Murraysville again, another one in Hempfield again, down in Mount Pleasant. So they're saying, and I tell the kids, the DA's office, they handle major cases for major crimes. Murder, assaults, burglaries, you name it. And now they're going and saying, wait a minute, we have a problem with vaping in communities, with these shops selling these things specifically to kids, and also not only selling the nicotine, but the THC base. Now they have different, and maybe some of these people up here can add to this, but different levels of THC versus CBD. It gets really confusing. And I think the kids, so sometimes, they might not even go to a vape shop. They'll go and get it from RISE, the marijuana, medical marijuana dispensaries. And even there, you're getting THC at 27%. And then they're getting someone to get them through a medical card and getting it. You've ever been in any of them? You ever seen any of the RISE or any of the medical things?
Yeah, I've seen one, but it wasn't in a package. It had it separated.
Okay. So, and that's just something where, as parents, I think parents, you have to talk to your kids, you have to tell them that, why are they making it, when you have that slide up there with pens that are hidden, or watches, or backpacks with stuff. If you can do something that's not wrong, why do you have to hide it? And if these vape companies are trying to say, we're not marketing to kids, and I think Juul, which is this product, oh, that's what this is Juul, yeah.
Juul was when it first got banned.
Yeah, they got banned. They're the reason why vaping is where it's at right now. 2015 to 2018, they went from a startup company, and by 2018, they were worth $30 billion. Worth more than like Ford Motor Company.
But if you would see this by somebody's your kid's laptop, you wouldn't even know. You would just walk right by, you would think it's just like, USB port or something. That's how, that's how it used to charge up. You had a USB port. You would just charge it right up to that.
Well, I'll show that. You can put that in your sleeve,
Yeah.
and then you can just conceal it, take a hit, and then blow it in your sleeve. That doesn't make as much of a cloud as,
No,
as
that
at least
that's
really doesn't make-
Yeah.
the original box
Yeah.
box, big
Yeah.
ones.
But see, they make these bigger so you have more hits. You can use it more, but it's also the same kind of volume of smoke. There's very little bit of smoke coming out. And then if there is smoke coming out, this is like great. So you're really not going to say, somebody's smoking if you see that little bit of pop.
And then when Juul made that much money, they owned they had 70% of the market. And then they got in trouble. And that's when it went from 18 to 21. Because they said you were marketing to teens. 50% of your clients were under the age of 18. That's when Trump was in his first time in president. He got involved, and that's when they started putting a ban on all tobacco products, and it went from 18 and nicotine-based products 18 to 21. And when that happened, it just made it a little bit more difficult. But Jules had countless class action lawsuits. They paid, in 2022, they paid out 1.7 billion to the state of California, 10,000 plaintiffs, 400 million in North Carolina because of their marketing. And that opened the door, once they got in trouble, that opened the door for all these new markets. And you probably even know this, who owns most of the vaping industry?
Cigarette companies.
Tobacco is the bottom out. Because you were supposed to get an e-cigarette to help you quit smoking, that's how they originally started. And now, if you never smoked but you vape, because of the nicotine, you can't get your vape. It's like a person that's addicted to heroin or other drugs. You're gonna get it however you can, and you're gonna go and smoke a cigarette, because you know that's where the nicotine is. So the tobacco companies were like, you know what? We can't beat them. We'll join them. We don't like you taking away our $1 trillion industry and making a billion. We'll buy you out. So I think they own like 90%. Every one of these is probably back to the cigarette. So that's kind of what I wanted to add, and just leave it up down to everybody else.
Needs to go online about it.
Oh my gosh, yeah. You get the marijuana stuff from another state.
I almost feel like if you ask any adult, my kid who's vaping, why don't you just smoke cigarettes? They would say, because it's better for me, but it's not, you're saying.
Better doesn't mean, well,
I mean, less.
safer doesn't mean it's safe, especially for what Aaron, I always come up to the kids when I talk to them, I try to be as real and truthful as possible. I tell them the two things you own from the time you're born, your brain and your body. And your brain and your body, they're developing, become the great humans they're going to be, and it doesn't really stop developing or mature, I call it cook, right? And it's done at 25. So 21 is just the age where they decided this is where it's close enough and stuff. But why are you putting something into your body that you know is going to hurt you? And that's what I'm here to tell you. They're going to make their own decision anyway, but at least they have the information.
But even that being said, and being a past smoker, I mean, like, now it's so hard to smoke any place, a lit cigarette.
Yep.
That, I mean, I know people that smoke and they're going on a plane, they'll take a vape because they can take a couple hits and they're okay. Or otherwise, they're wanting to jump out of their seat because they want their nicotine. So maybe that's, and these are adults, I mean, these are not children, and I know we're talking about children, but I think that's part of the problem. Not the problem, because I think it's a good thing that they stopped the smoking every place that they stopped it, but because what I see a lot of are friends of mine that vape, that are older, because it's easier than lighting up a cigarette when they're allowed to do it. They could go into the bathroom, they could go into a bar, they could go wherever and vape and it have not smell and not.
Think about how long people have been smoking and how much research they put into to looking at cigarette smoke and how much damage it's doing to your body. Vaping is relatively new.
Right. And I'm not disagreeing with you, I'm just saying.
Yeah, and they're already saying that it's doing damage. It's only gonna come out, look at the more research we're doing, it's gonna come out that it's just as damaging as smoking, if not more.
Right.
It's probably going to wind up being worse just because
Yeah.
of the chemicals and the way you get that wet lung, you get this, you get popcorn lung. And that's what I try to tell the kids, is we've got all this research finally with cigarettes, and the cigarette companies knew what they had when they put it out there. And if you look at the marketing, it's the same exact thing. And they get the young people, and it was acceptable. I mean, everybody's just about smoked in the 70s. You can go on an airplane, and remember they used to have and the smoking sign would come on and the seatbelt sign would go off, right? And but I tell the kids right now, I can't say 100% this is what's going to happen because we don't have the research to back it. 20 years from now, we will, but the damage will be done at that. And that's where it comes to the parents.
The people that work in a popcorn factory have to wear like almost hazmat suits when they're working with the diacetyl, the flavoring in that popcorn, because you can't inhale that because it does so much damage to your lungs. When you inhale it, you can eat it, you can ingest it because of the different acids and stuff that your stomach and your intestines have. It breaks it down differently than your lungs can. They have literally are in like respirators and hazmat suits working with this chemical. And that's what's in this flavoring. and that these teens and adults even are inhaling, they're not realizing that those popcorn companies are literally, that's why it's called popcorn lung. It's because it's coming from like a popcorn factory. It was actually discovered from people working in a popcorn factory. And now they have to wear literally respirators and hazmat suits to work with it because they're inhaling it and they were getting sick.
I have a question for you, Ken. With the metal detectors, Kiski doesn't have one, but do you get vapes on coming in?
So going through the metal detectors, it's a little bit harder because they are mostly plastic. We also have a bag scanner, so we do get quite a few come through the bag scanners. They'll try to hide in the all of the backpacks, just almost like going through mini TSA. They come through every day and we're constantly getting them.
But you're saying you could wear your watch through TSA and they wouldn't have caught it because they think it's a smartwatch and they probably wouldn't have picked it up.
Because like the majority of them that we're getting are like the bigger style ones.
Oh, okay.
So I mean, hopefully and luckily our kids don't find out about the concealed ones. But yeah, I mean, those ones they can pass them around to all their different friends or go online or go down to the store or mom and dad or friend or whoever and buy them. Problem we run into a lot of times with females is their bras. Their bras.
Because it requires no
Would you say, Jake, almost every day there's vapes?
Oh,
Every day?
multiple,
that you catch.
and don't catch.
And don't catch, but somebody catch.
And the kids don't realize what I said. I had a talk with my kids today down at Mount Pleasant, and I said, look, if you have to come to school with a vape, knowing that you have the possibility of getting caught, getting suspended, getting a second time, getting a fine, and you can't go the 6, 8, 7 hours, you are addicted. Either that or you don't like rules and you better change your attitude, you're gonna see the magistrate or people a lot in your career, but you're addicted to it. You can't go 2 periods without needing to take a hit. And they look at you like, well, I used the 0% or no nicotine or 0%. The studies have shown when they test them, and there's so many, there's 23,000 applicants for patents for flavors right now, we can't test them all. And they don't lie when they say 0% nicotine, it's less than 1%, so they just round it to 0 like you would in math. But even the ones that say no nicotine at times have just enough nicotine, which is plenty to get you addicted, because it is by far like if not
And
even.
there's the flavored ones, the cherry, the grape, the.
And then that's what THC too is, right? With the flavor, so you can't even smell it.
I've only been in the school for 4 months now. I get probably 20 tobacco, 2 THC. Our bathrooms in the morning are loaded with kids.
So do you think Aaron's 3% numbers are low?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
By far.
Yeah. And those numbers are straight from the CDC.
When, before 2020.
I think they're low, straight from the CDC.
Before COVID, I would ask the kids, we were talking right the year before COVID happened, and it was really off the charts. It just kind of died down a little bit, but still high. I'd ask the kids, like we'd have the self-surveys, pay surveys. It would say like 10, 15, 20%. And I'd say to my school, what do you think about that? They're like, no way. So well, give me a number. They're like 75%.
Oh, really?
And I say, no way. And they said, oh yeah, that might even be low. People using it. That was 5 years ago, maybe it's changed, but they still say it's higher than the numbers I showed. And these are the kids. So I don't know, a lot of these are self-reporting. I don't know if they honestly,
Right.
they're worried you're gonna get in trouble, or mom and dad are gonna see, and we're gonna secretly give their name. But I would tend, go to the kids, they'll tell you. I'm sure they tell you guys too.
I was telling Greg, I just read an article today, it just popped up on my phone, that there was a vape shop that was broken into, not too far from here.
It happens all the time.
Yeah, $3,000 worth of merchandise was stolen from juveniles, which I'm sure, I mean, they were caught.
But they like to sell them. I mean, I had
Exactly.
several.
They're all
That's
juveniles, so
several.
you know,
Yeah.
they're all in their school age. They're juveniles, they're, I think, 2 or 3 of them.
How many times that BP got hit?
At least 4 or 5
Yeah.
times.
And I'm just gonna say something, because it's the elephant in the room too again. We're all here because we're on the panel. The reason there might be a problem is because that's not here. hearing what we're saying.
Exactly.
Everybody, when I worked undercover all those years, it was the heroin was bad, we would try to have these. Everybody wants to bury their head in the sand and pretend it was not a problem. It doesn't happen in my community. It happens in other people's communities. These guys will tell you it happens, and we'll tell you it doesn't matter where you live. This is there. And it's the problem, I think, it's denial on the parents. Or the parents just don't know. They just think, oh, it's just cool flavored water, which I hope now they understand it's not that.
But
So,
it's better than smoking cigarettes.
Of course it
The
is.
the kids don't, I mean, I don't get kids smoking actual, like admitting to smoking actual cigarettes.
they hate it. They say it's like
It's
gross. They say it
disgusting.
smells.
Just like
and
Most
yeah.
of my kids, when you ask about alcohol, oh, I don't drink, but marijuana, that's a whole different ballgame.
Drinking's like that.
I feel like it is more so than before, but
But it's the marijuana.
marijuana by far.
So if a person, a little kid, a 13-year-old goes in, he can buy, they're not supposed to sell them, they're supposed to do what, 12?
No, you're not supposed to do a lot of it.
We know that, we talk a lot
Yeah.
about that, we have
Yeah.
meetings, but
Well, Officer Jenks was just talking about what.
Yeah, there's a 16-year-old that I took a vape off, and he said, he walked into a vape shop, laid him out on the desk, and he picked one for $15. And that's it. And I called her mom, and mom was like, I know exactly where he went, and she was gonna go handle it, but I don't know if it's one of the vape shops there.
I've heard of stories of vape shops selling clean urine to kids.
Yeah, to pass their probation code test.
Well, I've had kids, I don't know if they're buying the urine, I've had kids try to get other people's urine, but, usually there's a temperature gauge on there, so, I've had kids where they came back and I'm like, oh my God, you're dead, and they're looking at me like, you must be dead, because your urine's not registering on the cup, but,
Sean just had one the other day.
yeah, they're very, I'm sorry.
Sean had one the other day, it was freezing cold.
Yeah,
and
yes.
it Didn't come out of the body.
No, it's just, it's.
My wife has a colleague at work whose child was having trouble with weed, and they were testing him at home. I would have thought the same thing without the high-tech stuff. They were testing him at home, and 2 years he was clean. And so they caught him 2 years.
Especially if you're not watching them go to the bathroom.
Well, it's probably the synthetic marijuana, and
That's not gonna show up.
that's the high percentages that these kids just don't know. It's not the marijuana of the 70s. It's not the marijuana of 5 years ago.
If we tested in a THC tester, see if there's any THC in their marijuana, it would show up negative.
Right.
We're having this conversation in school about our policies, and I really want to push for a more, preventative approach. And we are, but the problem is, there's actually more THC vapes right now than regular vapes, because I was an elementary principal. I work in central office located here in high school, but I had one alcohol incident my entire elementary career. So I said, well, what are we talking about? We're talking about vapes, or are we talking about the THC vapes? They're like, it's all THC vapes we're talking about. So, and that's it.
So if I could just follow up a question, because I have some questions for you guys, so I'm just gonna follow up on what you asked, or we're talking about. What are some of the things, and I know specifically in Burrell, you've put some things in place to kind of curtail vaping problem or to catch kids. Can you talk about that and how that happened?
Yeah, well, we installed it was time to update our cameras, and we installed a whole new camera system, which also is like a full service security system that we installed. Includes the, whole new fob system and entry into the buildings and such. And it also included vape sensors. So we have vape sensors in the hallway. And, right away in the summer, it went off. Right after we got our whole system set up, it went off on a few of the principal systems. And so then the kids, when school started, the kids were getting called left and right. And at this time, I was not made aware of THC. I was just being aware that, it was just kind of funny. Kids in the park for years are getting away with it, smoking in the boys' room no longer, and they were getting away with it. So now they're just blatantly doing it in the classroom. Teacher turns her head right out the window. It's a little less right now. I haven't heard of anything in several weeks, but I mean, I was like, you gotta be kidding me. And like our presenter last time around, some of that's probably, being a teenager trying to get away with stuff. And the other part of it, I feel more strongly about the addicted part of it. They have to do it. They have to do it, so I'm gonna make it happen in the classroom. So that's concerning to me.
So, and then a follow-up on your, one of the things you said, and I know Judge Luke's not feeling great, but can you talk about what would happen with a student if they went to school and they were selling either vapes or THC vapes, and that, they got caught, and then that would come to you? So what kind of consequences would students?
Oh, well, it depends. The THC, that would be more of a, I mean, it's kind of a double-edged question about measures stuff. But if it would just be someone just sort of just with the vape, first offense, I think would go, be able to fine up to $50. But a lot of times we offer programs, stuff like that, through some of the agencies that are here. We offer the programs that go through that route. The positive part of my end is I really don't see any THC, not THC, excuse me, the vapes, very elementary schools. I spoke to guidance counselor, for sale of vapes, part of my district. Most of the kids are bringing the vapes more of an accidental when they're cool. Like they grab one off their parents or something like that. They're not smoking them or anything like that. So there goes up the book right there. It's more of like a mistake, when they bring it to school, showing off, and then grab my parents' papers. So I think at the upper elementary, kids, didn't have that many. I think constantly one, two, or something like that. So then when you get to the THC, if there is, these guys, the police will file different charges. They actually have like THC, but they were just a regular. I don't know if that answered your question, Bob. So I thought you said THC too.
Yeah.
Yeah, so THC, that would be, what you consider.
Do you guys want to talk about how you, what process you would do if you caught
Yeah,
students?
so.
How would
with
you know?
Yeah, so with tobacco vape, we have a class, if it's our first time offense, they get 3 days suspension in school. Then our in-school teacher is registered to go have the online course of the smokeless class. They usually call it smokeless SAG. Then if they get caught a second time, then they get a citation for having tobacco on school property. And sometimes we try to run them through the smokeless class again. We find out that that's, the first time is usually the only time that it'll get through, because they're doing it again. We're really not gonna pay attention to it. So they'll get a fine. So if it's THC, then it's basically filing charges for drugs. So it goes, it's misdemeanor third.
I'm great.
I'm good. Yeah, all right, so and then it goes down to juvenile probation, and we have a hearing on the juvenile probation office.
If we do catch the THC in the schools, we have to put enforcement. Schools are not law enforcement place. So that's a law, that's what we're looking for. But there's a great deal of preventative measures that try to take place if that ever happens, but in the core, we're for law enforcement.
Usually they're put on, if it's THC, usually they're put on probation. They got to be monitored.
Yeah.
Talk to the probation officers. They gotta do a urine test. Make sure they're not in trouble. They probably do some community service.
It's a little different now. The DA's office, I would say within the last year or so, where they can be put on just informal adjustment consents, which is informal probation for just, they don't even have to go to court. They would have to do community service work, do a drug and alcohol evaluation, which I was shocked that we were.
I think because I had one of the
Yeah.
students that got in trouble again.
Like if it's a first referral
Yeah.
with it, they'll do probably an informal adjustment consent. Again, they don't go to court, they'll have to do a drug and alcohol evaluation, random drug testing, drugs and community service work. But if it's a kid that had like, I mean, I think it depends on how much they have too. I mean, it could be a possession charge where they were put on some form of supervision where they do have to go to court and do all those things, but.
Yeah, because I had a gentleman who got in trouble again, I was asking him about the court date's gonna come up for, he had THC
Yeah.
then. And his father said, no, we already went through that. They called us and they took care of it on
They
on the
probably
phone.
should have consulted you to make
Yeah,
sure
exactly.
you're okay with
And I'm
that.
like, so, you know,
Yeah.
I just remember that, and
Yeah,
I didn't want to give him a call.
It's like, I'm surprised the DA's office has, I don't know if it's because marijuana, I mean, I have tons of kids that have a medical marijuana card too. I mean, that's,
They give you children.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I have, right now, on my caseload, I have at least 3 kids on a medical marijuana card right now, and I have 2 of them that are working together with marijuana cards.
Still illegal to have that in school.
Oh, correct, it is, it is.
So they don't have
It's not a
to.
get out of jail free card. So that leads to the last question that I kind of have, well, I actually have 2 questions, but the next to last question would be this. We're prevention specialists, obviously we don't want kids vaping. However, if they've started down this road and they're in that process, we know how addictive nicotine is, and we've got higher rates of nicotine in these vapes than even cigarettes. What are some things, this is just kind of anybody, what are some things that we can do to put into place to help these kids that may be addicted to nicotine? They're bringing them to school because they feel like they can't go through their 8-hour day without them. Are there some things that we should be doing or putting in place to help them with that? Not that we negate the disciplinary stuff, but how do we address that on the other end?
I think it's a cultural thing, Donna, you really, hammer this home as often as you possibly can. In our SAP process, students who become vaping can go in the SAP process, and it's preventative. That still requires a parent's permission to get through that process. And the culture is, it's not as big of a deal, obviously, or the family is embarrassed because we're overreacting. Anything like horrible that you can think of in a situation like that happens, we've heard of that. But there seems to be an upswing this year in some movement towards getting parents to agree to SPHS and SAC. It's been with like higher grade type situations, but there's been movement. So that's why we're looking at our procedures for what we do when kids get caught right now and not taking our policies, because we're trying to take a preventative approach. And yeah, you leverage it, So it's a $50 fine. You can avoid that with this. We know Smoke on Saturdays historically doesn't, go over all that well. I was just presenting with the new program. We'll be researching that a little bit. But we do try to leverage certain situations to try to get the right things done, with the idea that it's not like a smoking in the boys' room thing back in the day. This is a very highly same approach with gaming.
Just real quick, say what SAP is and how you would make a referral in your school district.
Sure. SAP is a student assistance program, and a student can refer themselves to staff, a parent can make a referral to staff, a teacher can, an administrator. But really what it's doing is the county has recently dedicated a great deal of funding towards supplying what we call SAP liaisons in every single district. And these SAP liaisons come out of WICSI, the Westmoreland Case Management Services Incorporated. And if a SAP referral is approved, this WICSI liaison will do an assessment. It's not a mental health assessment, but it's like an assessment to determine what community-based services would best fit your needs. And some of that's mental health, a lot of it is, and some of it is DNA, drug and alcohol. So again, we try to leverage situations where, hey, this has happened, this is what's gonna happen right now, you know, here's the SAP program, we'd like to do it. Because, you know, school, I'm not in the game of mental health, I'm not in the game of drug and alcohol prevention. We're at the forefront of it though, right? But we're not in the game, I'm not a mental health, you know, licensed person. I'll go into it, but I'm not a mental health licensed person. And we're not drug and alcohol licensed people, but we're in the front seats, in the front row, sorry, of addressing this. So we need to get people on board that are licensed to do with this, and that's where SAP comes in. They're the mental health people. We have you know, very often in schools, you can have situations where people think that will really feel like, I think this person needs help. I feel this person needs help. I think, I feel things. And that's not what we're doing. When you approach a parent and say, you know, I think, I feel that you should have, you know, a therapeutic assessment. I think that you should get through counseling. I think your child has ADHD. I don't know about you, but I'm not a doctor. I'm not a therapist. I can't make that determination. I sure as hell haven't done the assessment to do so. To me, it's a very sensitive line, and that's a sure way you can turn off families, which is adding to the culture of why families don't want to listen to schools when this happens. So, in so doing, you know, you're really trying to have people that are licensed and certified to make a referral to, like, there's an issue. And it's beyond what the school can do to help, because the school can offer intervention and help to help the school be better, but we're really talking about greater issues, addiction. Well, we're not counselors, we're not therapists, but we can connect to people that do that. And that's what the whole SAP program is about. That's what we're trying to do with drug and alcohol.
I'm gonna get each one of you to say one sentence, and the one sentence would be to address parents. What do you think parents can do or should be looking for, or how they can help in regards to vaping? So one piece of advice you would give to a parent.
I'll go first.
Okay, we'll start over here.
Kids' group, I do it all the time.
Treasure kids. Yeah,
I do,
toss it, right?
Yeah, I do, honestly, you know what made me mad though? Because I was expecting, well, I wasn't expecting to find anything, but when I went there, I found like, he had like 600 before the golf ball sale, and he was better than it to be. So that was the only part that disappointed me. So I was like, I have to live with that well. Be pretty trash kids' group.
I think it's just be alert, be involved in what your kid's getting into, knowing friends, knowing if they do come up with something, where do you get it from? Because a lot of them are just, they don't see their kid enough at night that they stay out to 10 o'clock at night, come home, sleep. They don't see them enough to say, oh, you came home with a vape on you, where'd you get that from? If they get caught at school, they get that call and they're like, all right, I'll talk to him when he gets home. He doesn't come home after school, he goes to a friend's house.
I don't think you can start the conversation with your kids early. In the conversation, it shouldn't be a conversation like this. It should be about, listen, you're going to see this. You know, and I think the more you talk about, you're going to see this. This is what happens. In my family's situation, my wife and I both are now, this is what we grew up with. This is what we saw. This is how you handle it. This is what peer pressure is all about. I don't think you can start that conversation too early, because when they do start seeing it, they're more likely to be open to you about it. I don't want to go to that party because they're drinking beer, which is what my daughter said. So part of me is like, you still should enjoy yourself. You just got to learn how to be away from that a little bit. But I really appreciate your openness, and that's because we've been talking to her about this for years.
Yeah, like you said, be open with your kids. Talk to them about what's going on, how was school, what went on. You know, basically try to be a parent. Don't just try to be your friend, because you want to know if they're doing anything wrong. You gotta be more involved, you gotta have more talks with them. Sit down and talk to them, and say, how was your day? How are things going? It's fast paced now, everybody just goes in and out, like Officer Jennings was saying. It's, you know, sports, after school activities. And they're going, you know, second job sometimes. So we hardly ever see each other. I mean, you just sit down, you know, we always try to have, you know, at least a couple of days. We're at my household, you know, sit down, because we're so high paced and we run, sit down and have dinner like a family. Instead of sitting on the couch. Yeah, turn your phone.
Yeah. Officer Master, you got one?
Yeah, like you were saying, don't try to be their friend. I mean, try to relate and use your own life experience. Like, for me personally, I started smoking 12 years old because that's what my friends were doing at that time. You know, at 12 years old, I was able to go to the store, give me a pack of cigarettes, find my coins in my pocket. I mean, I smoked for 14 years before I finally quit. I mean, if you can try to relate to them and give them the facts and like your own background of why you shouldn't, that might somewhat get through to them. But hopefully, just not being their friend is the biggest part.
Greg, you got something to say?
I'm going to go, all of those are excellent, and my big thing is love your kid. Let them know you love them, let them know you care about them, and you're doing these things because you care, and you want the best for them, and don't be a dictator. But at the same time, what you guys all have been saying, be a parent, not a friend, and don't expect others like us, not to disrespect, to parent your kid for you. You need to do that. And sometimes I think a lot of the parents, they're still figuring out how to take care of themselves, and now they got some family thrown in there. So, and the other thing, we can all say what we want, and I come back to COVID, you know, when everything that happened. I think if you could say one good thing about COVID is when we went into lockdown, we were together. We couldn't leave. We were families, and my daughters like say right now, like, we love family dinners. Like we all get busy. You guys have all said it, and we're all going a million miles per hour. Somebody over here said, it was you, Greg, that put these down. Turn them off and just have family night. We have game night at our house. And my daughters are grown, where we play board games, or we do crime mysteries, where you have to like it's like an escape room game kind of, but mysteries and stuff. And they love it. It's probably they get away from the electronics and pay attention to your kids. Listen to them. You know what they'll tell you everything, even when they don't know they're telling you. Trust me. And students in the schools, you guys know this. The walls talk. Kids that think we're deaf. It's so funny when you hear these kids walking by in the hallways, and you're like, they're talking, and you're like,
It's amazing what a piece of candy can do.
oh, yeah, right.
They're going to come in and say they want to get a piece of candy, and they basically tell them themselves.
With adults,
Yeah, with adults.
it's like a candy jar in my office. They're like, oh, look at that. I was like, it's for you. I don't need it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Can I add something?
Yes.
Like, I think parents need to know their kids. I do assessments, and there's a section with like friends. Parents so many times don't know who the friends are of their kids. Like I said, well, your son or daughter's hanging out with this person. They're like, oh yeah, I don't know them, or they don't know their last names. They don't know their families. So I think that's a huge problem too. Like, know your kids, know who your kids are hanging out with. Because so many times they do not know who they're hanging out with.
I had a big minivan when my kids were teenagers, and I always offered to drive because I realized if I was driving, the more of them that piled in the back, the more they talked, and I could hear everything. They would say all this
But
stuff.
it's so different now because
Yeah.
kids don't talk.
They're
Kids, you know,
texting each other.
You go into study halls and it's so quiet because everybody's texting it.
And now you're taking kids to and from sports. You all know about that. And that's why I volunteered to drive as much as possible. And yeah, there's times it would be a silent drive home because if they were so tired of practice or they're tired or they're on their phone, and there's times they wouldn't shut up. And then there was times they were just singing and jovial mood, and that's good too, is to share the fun experiences as much as possible. Then that way everyone's comfortable with you.
The other, I have one more thing on what you just said. No, your parents need to talk to other parents.
Yes.
Don't be afraid to, you hear something, talk to another parent and just say, hey, I'm not trying to tell you how to parent, but I heard this, and I just thought you should know. It's one of the unconscious truth, which is one of the videos that I show, is just that. No, I'm sorry to say it, it's different. But anyhow, talk to other parents.
And I know you said about tossing the room. What's funny is some parents feel like they're afraid.
That was to say, that's what I was gonna, and I think they're going to feel abused on it, like the baby guy. hear that, I go, oh my gosh, no, because you don't want to be afraid to find, you know, I mean, yeah, was I afraid to find something? Absolutely. But guess what, if you turn a blind eye to it,
Yeah.
then it goes. And we also have this great app called PAE Doc. I run all my friends, all my kids' friends, and their parents see what they're into. Like, my daughter's getting in the car with someone else, I'm gonna run that girl's name or boy's name and see if they can see it. PAE Doc, it's a great little app on your phone. You can find anything. It's not like anyone can. You got download the app, PAE Doc.
I'm telling my wife it's not that.
Aaron, you got one last word of advice?
No, I can't follow all those. The only thing I tell my son every day, when we're in the car, because we have something every single night. I keep busy, so he stays out of trouble. But I tell him every day, I love you, I'll support you, you might get in trouble, but I'll always love you. So we talk about one or two good things that happens at school, and if there's any bad things, we have to talk about it. So the more you communicate, the better it's gonna be.
I always said I love you so much, I'll make you cookies when if you go to jail, I'll bring you
I'll always love you and I'll always support you.
But
You
you
might
might
get in
go to
trouble.
I'm not getting you out, I'll make you cookies.
You might get in trouble, but I'll always love you and I'll always support you.
They all have social media.
Yeah.
They all have social media.
How do you
Their
get
TikToks,
started?
their Snapchats, Facebooks, Twitters, they're all using it. Then they have the hidden social media apps.
That's a whole nother.
Gonna have my kids
speaker.
do others.
Yeah, that's another one.
And he says to me now, this is what he says, he says, don't be mad at me, Mom. I have to tell you something, don't be mad at me. I'm like, I won't be mad at you if you tell me. I'll be more mad if you don't tell me. Yeah. Just
We
like
have
that.
some resources over here. We
Yeah.
brought some excellent resources. We have some about talking with your children, parents communicating
You guys stick around for
on the vaping and marijuana kinds of things. And the student assistance brochure, you know, familiar with what that is, out there. And through St. Vincent College Prevention Projects, we provide tobacco cessation programs, which includes vaping. It's just, that's, overarching title.
Anybody have any questions? He's going to be here for a few minutes. Visit the resource table. Thank you, everybody, for coming out. Thank you, Mary Jo, for spearheading our group, our CSAY Northmoreland group. I got enough tickets for one giveaway. Does anyone have 230-9986?
8-6.
86.
Yay.